Hello, everybody, and happy Monday. Let's take a look at the artwork that was made over the last few days. We're going to start with the video content that was loaded online. I've also got all of the still and other video content that was uploaded directly to Discord inside of Photoshop here. As you may or may not know, you can actually upload movies into Photoshop. Took me a while to figure that one out, but there we go. So it's the buffering a little bit slow at first, but you can do that. So I want to start with the online ones, then we'll work on over into here. So I just kind of want to play this. There we go. Okay, cool. Online. All right, let's start with this one. So first step with this one was we really wanted to nail down the transition point between the two shots. So one of the things that happens, and the reason why I wanted to do this is this is the best simulation of what it's like to light on an animated film. It's like you are constantly like, okay, let's A/B last frame of this shot to the first frame of that shot. We'll make sure that they match up, and getting those transition points right. Like they don't have to be perfect, but looking at things like the blue value of the jacket to make sure that the saturation point is about right. Making sure that there isn't too much of a light pop in any one direction, that it plays together seamlessly. Because the second that you break that continuity with your audience, things kind of go awry, and it just kind of like breaks the believability. I think that you've nailed down. I think you've got it close now. I think that we're looking at shots that come together much more seamlessly now, and that's a really nice one. I like the setup and staging of the second shot because he's like a little bit brighter. Then he hits a patch of darkness, and then he sits down into that light. A couple little things. One that I just am noticing now is he's got a pretty severe Adam's apple shadow there. I don't know if there's any way of reducing that, or I guess it's just the shape of the geometry. It's just like it's like one of those, like, once I noticed it, it was just like there, like this kind of like, yeah, just kind of strong shadow on his neck. But like I said, if that's just the way the geometry shape is, there's not much you can do. Maybe softening that shadow a little bit would help, but that would be about it. Okay, but going back into this transition point, I think that we're close. I think that if you look at the amount of fill value on this side of his face in this shot, it actually, and like look at the white of his hair. I think that if we go back to this, I think you can push a little bit more rim light around him here to kind of match those two up. And I think it would actually help the lighting on the character here as well. So just getting a little bit, like obviously we've got this light here hitting him on this side, but like just a little bit of the interior light starting to creep onto his face there, I think would really, really work out well. As we step in here. Yeah, my only concern is that he does get a little bit flat in that dark range right here. So I'm wondering maybe if we could hint a little bounce light from this table, like as he gets closer to it, it kind of like comes up underneath him until, before he steps into the actual key light, just to get a little bit more shaping on him. And let me actually play with the audio. I'm not quite sure the line he's delivering there. Let's see. Or there may not be audio. But if he's delivering like a sinister line, that would actually play out well, because it's like he's entering this space of being a tough authoritarian. Like he's got a tough face on right now, so I'm guessing he's delivering something serious. So is that there? I'm trying to think if there's the big ones. Also, like, I don't know if the red light needs to be on here. This is kind of pulling my eye over to that side because there's a little bit of contrast there. I think we can probably just tone that down. Silly one too, outside the window. If you can just put something out there, it just feels like this kind of flat blue square that exists in the background. And again, it's if you squint, it really is the brightest thing in the shot. So it's really drawing our eye back there. Also, you might want to just populate something else on the wall here. It feels a little barren, and just having a little extra prop, like a framed picture on the wall or something, might help. Yeah, I think we're in a much better spot for now. And then once we get that stuff sorted along, one other thing to point out is we've got some eye ding issues. There's lots of reflections in the eyes there. That's going to be very tricky with this shot, but just cleaning up doing some eye work on this guy and getting some good eye dings in there. Um, that will be, yeah, definitely will be a challenge. All right, let's move on to the next one. We got bribes here from Michael. All right, cool. Yeah, that lighting's a lot better. I like that setup of that lighting on the character back over here. I think, yeah, I like that transition. Do you see that transition on the sculpture heads off to the side here? Watch that. So it's like that is nice because there's two kind of lighting setups that both work because the light that's hitting the sculptures on the side is brighter. But then we're able to flip it, and like the other side's kind of the key light. So I think that this shot in this area is actually working pretty good. I think my only couple of silly things. Chair's reading a little bit better. If we can get some more like specular highlights or something on the chair to read as it gets passed along, like, do you see how there's like these nice kind of specular highlights there? If we can get some of those um, in the front of it as it's kind of coming around, especially, yeah, just like a little bit more on the top maybe, or just putting a little specularity in there just so we can read it a little bit better. Additionally, the buttons on his shirt, they're a little glowy, and actually that's the frame right there that really. So like they're a little bit glowy and a little punchy. I would take down. You can just do this in the comp. Just take down their saturation. Take that their blue saturation, and then just bring down the gamma a little bit on them to darken them down a little bit. It'll help set them back into space a little bit because right now they're starting to get almost as bright as his eyes, and we don't want to draw the attention down there. I'm gonna turn into this shot. I still think the purple on her garment could be toned down on the saturation side. I would also considering toning down the saturation of the life outside the window here just a little bit. It's a little punchy in the greens and kind of drawing us out there. I would also, I think I might say this last time, but like consider reducing the like this much light on her from that side feels a little strong. Again, with the connection with the bright, if we're saying the bright light's coming in from here, generally speaking, you don't want like God rays happening in two directions in your scenes. So I think I would say just like toning these down, softening them by blurring them, and then reducing the light on her face by like 30%, I think would help that a lot. I'm fine with the structure of it, like how she's being shaped up and things, but I would reduce that. Also, this light back here, we may want to try it. Here's the thing: it's illuminating behind her, which isn't doing us any favors. Like there's not really like a story point back there. If it was creating more of a rim light on her, I'd get it, but I would even say maybe like moving it closer off camera or something to allow that to fall into more darkness because we're definitely trying to read her light over dark. So I would say just like toning down everything back behind her a little bit, allowing that to fall back into space a bit more would certainly help. Yeah, that's why I think I'm with this, but it's really a nice. It's really a nice shot. Like this is not the easiest thing in the world. There's a lot going on here. A good job getting a little bit like same thing here. Like suggesting a little life outside that door there is a really, really, really nice touch. All right, and we'll take a look at this one here. All right. So first pass at this, really fun stuff. Difficult, tricky one. Like lots going on here. First thing like I said, I always with the other shot, I always check is just consistency from shot to shot. You've got that going, which is nice. I think some things that stand out to me right away are just the colors of the screen, like the pure intensity of the saturation on the cyans and reds in the shot. All right, a little too on the nose. We'll see about toning those down going forward, or if the screens, especially depending on what they end up being. But and then the one thing that you want to do is create some variation in the character's lighting, especially in the character's lighting, especially when they're about to go through this frenetic like blah 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 blah. Like you want to create like some pockets of light for the character to move through. You've got a nice like kind of spotlight here on the ground from an overhead light. Like that's cool. Like we can play that up a little bit, and then just maybe it's a matter of again, if they're going to be this bright, like we should feel some of them on the character's face as he's going by. I think like if you want to make him more glowing and less saturated, like more more illumination, more emission, and less saturation, I think that would be a fun thing to see him go past like these pockets of light. And if the actual objects aren't doing it, you can put like area lights here, very small area lights that just kind of capture as the character goes by, like just think of it like a piano, like as they go by. Sorry, I light a lot in sounds. Like when I think about it, it's like I think about it just establishing a rhythm. Um, when you go to final render, you might want to smooth out these guys, the geometry on their shirts. It's a little weird that it's super polygonal. You may also want to connect this wire to the keyboard. It seems to be grounded in, and then hide the wires so they're not just going straight into the wall. Just like tuck them somewhere so it's not just like disappearing into nothingness. Yeah, in terms of lighting, let's see, read them in here. I feel like some of the ambience might be a little bit too bright. Like looking at some of the reference that you provided. Let's see where that. So it's lots of panel lights, lots of top-down stuff. I guess there's not that much variation in there. It's just what I'm thinking is more. I'm wondering if we can push it more like clinical blue, as opposed to like kind of the yellow color that we have now, and that would allow. Yeah, some of those saturated colors to really kind of stand out. And when he is this, I mean, I work for Adobe. Like we have a lot of very red presentations on large screens that I have to give to people online. And the second that the presentation turns to this bright red, their face glows red. So like this big of screen right here, like his hand is on the screen. There should be like tons of red spill all over him, and on this desk here. So much more than the reflections, but just like the emission of light on there would be pretty pronounced. So you can see it here, like, but it's it almost would even be a little bit more than that if it was going to be that like, pure red. Also, like this lever doesn't quite read to me, so we'll have to figure out a way to get a little light on there. Now, one thing that you can do is. Like you've got this pocket of light here. You can play up pockets of light as you're going forward. I think that would actually help get some more variation on this back wall because back wall is pretty flat right now. So just like a little bit brighter here, a little bit brighter here, and as you kind of go across. Yay to extra hands in animation. That's always a fun trick. The reason why AI is going to be bad at replacing us, because if you like frame by frame this animation, you'll see extra hands popping out there. That's just the way that animators do things like this. We did a lot in the Peanuts movie and that kind of thing. So this character too is standing in some sort of spotlight, and it feels like to me I would push the light back behind him to make it, to make it feel like he's going over here. Now, let me look at this real quick. Sorry, just figure this out. I'm wondering if. Like we've got this dark door here. Let's dark everything to the right of the screen. Let's go ahead and darken that down because then when we get to this shot, everything over here to the right, we can now allow that to be darker and allow this character to kind of stand light over dark, so that the light is kind of coming in from behind. It already is. Like if I'm looking at, maybe the light position just a little bit lower to make it feel like it's a little more rimmed on them. And then allow that to push from behind. And again, same thing, like it's important that we know that he's working on this thing, so allowing that cyan glow to hit him up a little bit. Yeah, I think that's it for this one. I think it's a good start for you there. All right, let's slide over to the stills. Some of the other stuff we got going on here. All right, so let's take a look. Actually, one more. I think it's looking really great. Overall, I think it's looking really cool. I think that introducing the character through lightning strikes is so fun. The one big thing that I would do. There's two things I would do. Three things. I'm saying three things now because I just noticed one more. This last one's probably the easiest one. So I've got the red here just looks like lipstick, which is fine, but it just doesn't. And actually, I would just tone down that saturation and allow the character to be almost like purely value, like purely black and white, so that we can kind of read that. It's just the red pop of it was kind of like when I just saw it that time, I was like, oh, that really feels like lipstick. Other one, as a character stepping through here, try to get some orange glow from these buildings up onto the legs, like help kind of build the drama there. And then the third and final one that I had was just, I love this like big, massive form moving, the thunderstrike hitting the spikes. I want to see a change in the character's dark, like black point or dark value more as they step closer to the camera. I when they're back, when the character's back here, I want to feel it more in the fog, a little bit more grayed down, and then in here it's like 50% between, like kind of blending in with the fog and then emerging, and then up here is where it can get that dark. So basically, it's just lifting the value a little bit and allowing the character to grow. Because again, massive character moving through space, you really want to feel that as the character stepping forward. So yeah, really cool stuff there. All right, those are the three that I would hit for that one. And then, all right, finally we've got it. Hey, Pete, how's it going, buddy? Thank you for clarifying which one was the reference and which one was the render. So I'm assuming this one because you mentioned the bullheads. So cool on that. A1. There's two big ones stood out to me like right away, and they're generally like one of the first things that I evaluate when I'm looking at these types of interior shots, just because I photographed them a bunch and rendered them a bunch, and like two things like always stand out to me. One is the amount of bounce light, and two is the exposure of the shot like this. So whenever you're exposing a shot like this during the daytime, like the daytime light comes in, it gets filtered through a window and diffused a little bit. And so right now you're kind of exposing, you make a choice. You're like, do I expose the camera for the interior space or the exterior space? If it's the interior space, or if it's the exterior space, the exterior is at about this value, like it's balanced, but the interior is like super dark and contrasty. You're almost there right now, but it's like darker than this. I actually think that you're exposing for the interior space. And what that means is that the amount of light that enters is a fraction of what it is outside, just by, physics. So what I would do is, you can see it in the reference, is like really blow out the outside. Like it doesn't have to be like totally white where you can't see anything, but you definitely want that light to be brighter than it is inside. So I'm just going to take it up here so you can see it. And so do you see how it's like not even getting close to, and this is adjusting a JPEG here, so forgive me, it's not going to look great, but somewhere along that realm. And then once you get it into that point, you can and again, this is just a mock-up, so forgive me, it's covered. Sorry, bulls. And then what you'll want to do, let me just blur this a little bit more. I don't want the box blur, but that's all right. And then just go ahead and plus this on over. Tone it down. Yeah, something like that to kind of glow it in, and while still getting definition on the outside, and there's a little bit of blur out there. And then the other, so that's kind of. There we go. All right. So something along that to kind of create that brightness out there. The second one is the energy that it produces, creates bounce light, like a strong bounce light that comes up this way. So the one thing that you want to do is like, because again, this sun has so much energy. The floor, so warm. And you want to bounce it up into there. So you want to see some variation coming across of the warm light bouncing up through here. Also, a weird thing happens around a window. There's more that kind of like bounces up towards it. So like this wall is going to be a little bit brighter than what we're seeing over here. And you want to feel that kind of ambient fall off as we go over there. And then the final big note that I wanted to point out was just like these pillows feel a little bit plasticky, especially this one in the middle. It's got like, I like this kind of like specular value for the leather components of the couch, but for these cushions, they should feel a little softer than that. So I would just soften those up a little bit. But all in all, really looking great, and great job overall by everyone. Really impressive stuff, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you all do the rest of the week. All right, take care, everyone. Happy lighting.